Thank you for joining us today. Okay, so Patricia Lewick, I'm assuming that's how you pronounce her last name. She is from Seattle, Washington, and she sent me her resume via email. And so she graduated from NYU, New York University in 2012 with a master's in international education. She graduated in 2009 from UTEP, the University of Texas El Paso, Bachelor in Interdisciplinary Studies, Special Education, EC through 12. She's Texas certified to teach special education K through 12. She also, in 2005, went to the Texas Culinary Academy, Le Cordon Bleu, Associate in Culinary Arts. So I'm assuming she wanted to be on stage, a chef. Okay. So her employment, she currently works at Canotillo High School. She's a special education teacher, and she teaches Algebra 1 and geometry. So she does inclusion, and she also teaches a couple of resource classes. And so she also, when she lived in New York, she worked at this school called New Alternatives for Children, and she was an educational specialist there. And this was really cool. I guess it's like not a school or school, nonprofit organization that provides social services to families with medical. So New York University Silver School of Social Work, graduate research assistant, United Nations Children's Fund. She worked for UNICEF.
Okay, so remember, you guys will have a copy of the resume in each of your individual folders, so feel free to check on her resume as we're interviewing her. We also have Mr. Adam Johnson. He's actually currently working at America's High School. We're gonna see, because he just got SPED certified, but he's been teaching for 5 years. He's a science teacher there at America's High School. It's important that we know right now, before we bring in these candidates, to ensure that if there's no conflict of interest. Do any of you know these candidates personally? No. Okay. This is just, we're just double checking. Also, I did send you guys pre-interview questions as per HR. They were approved. Make sure that you guys don't deviate from the questions. We cannot ask anything outside of these questions. They've been approved by HR. That's what we will stick to. Is right now, before we begin interviewing, is there a question from the ones that we provided for you that you feel we should omit, or is everybody okay with the questions?
They're okay.
Yeah, they're really good questions.
Okay. Okay. So then what we're going to go ahead and do is, let me go ahead and let HR know that I think our first candidate should be here in about 10 minutes. We'll go ahead and get started. If you guys want to help yourselves with some coffee or, Coke, whatever, while we get started. All right, guys, we're going to have our first interviewee, Ms. Patricia Lewick. All right. Hi, Ms. Lewick. Come in.
Hi, thank you.
Please have a seat. Okay. I'm Miguel Reveles, the principal at Jefferson High School. Okay. We're going to go ahead and introduce ourselves. To my right, go ahead.
I'm Jesse Lujan. I'm assistant principal at Jefferson High School.
And I'm Ms. Roque, assistant principal at Jefferson High School, particularly area of special ed.
Okay. Also, we have other teachers in this panel, but we'll get to them shortly. All right. Before we begin, are there any questions that you have for us? Anything you'd like to discuss?
Do you have my resume?
We do have your resume, and okay. Yes, we have your resume. We've looked it over extensively. We all have a copy of that. Okay. All right. So the way that we're going to do this interview panel is that we will be asking you questions. We're going to start with Mr. Lujan here to the left of you. Okay. And we will all each individually ask you a question independently. Okay.
Okay. First question: Why did you decide to become a teacher? What interested you?
I decided to become a teacher after being in culinary arts. I found out that I was more passionate about teaching others than actually having my own restaurant and the business aspect of that. I decided that it was not for me, and I started doing volunteer work, and that's what I found out. Being a teacher was the thing that I wanted to do, and my major was interdisciplinary studies, EC to 12, and during my UTIP years, I volunteered. I was part of different organizations that allowed me to work with children, especially with children with special needs.
Okay. Ms. Lloyd, what is your teaching philosophy?
My teaching philosophy is that I mean everyone can learn, and it's just a matter of finding how we can reach out to that student who might be struggling or the student who is overachieving, making sure that I meet the needs of both of my students at the same time when I'm teaching. And I also believe in open communication and being friendly but also very respectful with my students, making sure they know their roles, responsibilities, and that they're aware of why they're learning. It's important in the classroom, which is math, which is a hard subject for some students.
Okay.
All right. What type of classroom management structure would you implement if you were hired?
What type of can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, ma'am. What type of classroom management structure would you implement if you were hired?
I will set out my expectations on the first week of school, making sure that they know the rules and what will be the consequences. I try to implement a system of first I will talk to the student, and if that doesn't work, then I will have a conference with her mother or father or the parent warden, and then if that doesn't help the student understand or making sure that he's being respectful and making sure that he's contributing in the classroom and learning, then I will have to go with the assistant principal.
Perfect. Good answer.
Okay. How have you used or will you use technology in the classroom? How do you use technology?
I really like to implement no more than 2 or 3 apps or websites, just because the students, especially my students with special needs and parents needs, they don't have to feel overwhelmed about every password, every username. Therefore, I have Edmodo. I think it's a very good website for students. Also through Gmail, using Gmail, Google Docs, having that open communication with parents, doing surveys, making sure they are aware of the programs and any changes that there are for the students' class in classroom in geometry or math, where I'm helping the teacher.
Okay. We have about 5 minutes before the interview is over, actually a little less. So we're going to go ahead and ask you 2 more questions, and then we will close the interview. Okay? So, Ms. Lloyd, what's interesting you right now about our district?
I'm really interested about the dual language that there is in high school. I think it's very important that we provide valuable education for students, especially for students who are in special education. They might be struggling with the language, but it doesn't have to be a barrier for them to learn. So either doing modifications in Spanish for students or English. And I just like that approach that the EPIS, the district, is taking to help and prepare students for the 21st century in technology and language, making sure they prepare if they go to college or if they join the workforce, that they're prepared.
We have one more question.
Okay. How would you deal with a student who is habitually late?
I will try to talk to him privately, and making sure if there's any problems. For example, if it's in the first period of class, making sure that there's not a family problem, that maybe he's taking care of brothers or sisters that he needs to go and drop them in school and then he comes, or if there's no one watching at home, and maybe the student is working, since it is for a high school. A lot of students start working when they're 16. So making sure that he knows how to time manage himself, which is a skill that it will be very helpful once he go to college or later on. So making sure that I have that open communication with the student before I do anything else.
Okay, Ms. Lloyd, well, that concludes our interview process. Okay. At this time, it is not necessary for you to contact us further. If you are our candidate of choice, you will be contacted by HR at the earliest possible time. We do thank you for coming in and for your interest in Jefferson High School, and we hope to see you soon.
Okay, thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and bring in our final interviewee. Okay, his name is Adam Johnson. So let me go ahead and bring him. Hi, Mr. Johnson, we're ready for you.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. So I'm Miguel Reveles. I'm the high school. I'm the principal here. I'm sorry, here at Jefferson High School. I'll allow the panel to introduce themselves as well.
My name is Ms. Moreno, and I'm the assistant principal for Jefferson High School. It has been my third year working here.
Nice to meet you.
I am Ms. Roque. I am the assistant principal here at Jefferson High School. I work more with the special education department.
Okay. So, Mr. Johnson, the way that we're going to run this interview is that we're going to have 15 minutes to proceed. What we will be doing is we each have been assigned questions that we will be asking you. We will go in order. All right. When our time is expiring, I'll remind you, and then we'll go from there. Okay. All right. So Ms. Morena's going to go ahead and start it off.
Why did you become a teacher?
Well, I've always had an interest in teaching students ever since I was small. I mean, I like to coach my little brother in soccer and track and whatever he liked to do. So I figured I had a talent for that. And as I got older, that talent got bigger. So I said, why not teach? And I had a particular interest in science. So then I said, I'll teach science, I guess, too. So as time went by, I started getting more interested in teaching and coaching. So that's why right now I'm coaching football and teaching science at the same time. That's my
Mr. Johnson, what is your teaching philosophy?
It's pretty much based on classroom management. If you don't have a good environment for students to learn, and you don't have a classroom under control, then you can't have a positive impact on students. So it comes down to pretty much classroom management and being there for your students all the time, differentiating and building that rapport with them so they can actually get the classroom skills and environment that they need to learn.
Thank you.
Okay. What type of classroom management structure would you implement if you were hired?
I guess it goes back to the same question. It ties in with the second question that you guys asked me. So you don't have that environment where students feel comfortable and you have like bullying going on, people making fun of each other, yelling across the room, stuff like that. You can't have students learn. So it all comes down to like maybe at first just like talking to the students, and then afterwards if that doesn't work, then you bring in the parent with a conference. And if that doesn't work, so then you have to go to maybe an administration and have a conference with them there, with the parent and the student. That's my philosophy.
Okay.
How would you use technology in the classroom?
How do you
How would you use technology in the classroom?
Technology, well, since I teach physics, I use a lot of calculators. There's a lot of calculations. So I use TI calculators, projectors to put up some questions. Maybe I have them do an assignment online. Also, my district is particularly interested in Twitter. So we have a big Twitter thing for all the students, all the teachers, all the administrators. So they can pretty much get at you through there, post questions, and they can answer it. Just kind of like a way to everybody use that technology besides the common calculator and projectors and whatnot. So I try to use as much as I can because we are in the 21st century, so it's pretty important.
We have 3 more questions to ask you, Mr. Johnson, and we have about 5 minutes remaining in our interview.
Okay.
So, you are coming to EPISD, so what interests you about our district?
About EPISD, I like the support that we have for our staff. So everywhere I've been, not just Jefferson High School because this is a great school, but all the schools that I've learned about, their administrators are very supportive of me. They actually, if you have any questions, they'll actually be pretty open to you. They don't push you back. They're not this hidden person that you can never access when you have a problem. So EPISD is pretty open, it's pretty transparent, and that's what I like about it.
Okay. How would you deal with a student who is habitually late?
Well, I have a student right now that's always late at America's High School, and she always comes in maybe 15 minutes late. I've spoken to the parent. I've held a conference with a mom and the assistant principal, and that doesn't seem to work. So I did address the issue, but when I first start and I notice tardiness, I ask them, why are you late? And if they answer something that makes sense, then I talk to the parents. And if it's just because they're out hanging around with their friends and stuff, I mean, then in that case, I take a disciplinary action against them. And maybe, I mean, it really depends on the situation. So it goes down to the first question of why they're late, the reason for being late. Yep.
You have one more question?
Yes.
And that'd be Ms. Moore.
What would you say to an angry parent about their child's grade?
About the child's grade, well, I mean, I guess every teacher gets those, right? So if they have a bad grade, it's pretty much because it comes down to three reasons, I guess. They don't do the assignments that they're assigned, they show no interest or effort in the class whatsoever, or they just simply don't get the stuff. So whatever the reason is, you have to make sure that you intervene for them and explain that to the parent, because if the parent comes in expecting for you to just put up the grade because the students may be lying to them or not communicating the proper information, then you have to be the one to tell them exactly what's going on so they can actually get the work done, get the tutoring that they need, or spike their interest in some way in an accommodation to like the class. So that's in communication.
Okay. Well, Mr. Johnson, that concludes our interview process. We do thank you for coming and for your interest in Jefferson High School.
Okay.
If you are recommended for the job, you will receive a call from HR, so there's no need to contact us at this time.
Okay.
If there are any further questions before you go?
How likely is it that I will get the job?
Well, as I said before, HR will contact you if that is the case.
Okay.
But we do thank you for coming by. All right.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and discuss our candidates. You've each been given a rubric to fill out independently. Please, let's not discuss the rubric at this time. What we're going to do is we're going to submit the rubric to HR independently. After we have our discussion, HR will let us know who our top candidate based on the rubric was. And then based on our discussion, we'll be able to see who we recommend for the job. Okay? So again, we'll wait for HR to do that after our discussion. But let's go ahead and begin with our first interviewee, Ms. Patricia Lewick. So, Ms. Roque, what were some strengths that you saw from Ms. Lewick?
Well, she has her master's in international education, and she has a certification for special ed. That's pretty much
Okay. What's your perceived?
Yeah, she seems open to change, so in everything she said indicated that she was willing to adapt to different situations to make students more successful, so she's good.
Right, I think she can because, from her resume, she's worked at, different places, overseas and, East Coast, and, she has that.
Experience.
Yeah.
Ms. Moreno, what did you think?
I like how she responds to questions and also that she has been doing volunteer work with nonprofits, so she can also help look out for resources for parents and for school.
Yeah, she definitely seems like she has a lot of things to contribute to our community. The only thing that, again, I think that it was just something that I may have seen, and you guys can correct me, but in her resume, I did see that there was a lot of employments, and one-year employments. So it made me feel, a little hesitant because she has a lot of experience that she brings to the table, but again, we want longevity with our students. We want somebody who's going to stay with our community for a few years. We can't ever promise that, but it is good to see, that somebody's invested
Correct.
in their community. Okay. Are there any other things you guys would like to discuss about Ms. Lewick?
No, she's a great candidate.
Yeah, I think she was pretty good.
Okay. Let's go ahead and discuss Mr. Adam Johnson. Currently, he's coming from America's High School now. He's a science teacher. He just recently got his STEM certification. He's been teaching for 5 years.
5 years, yeah.
Okay. So what did you guys think about him?
When we were asking him questions, he just didn't really seem to look at us. He was kind of always looking away and just kind of like fidgety. It just didn't seem sure to me. Some of his responses were good, and I don't know, there's just something with him too.
Yeah, he seemed a little disinterested, so he was definitely distracted at some point. You could tell he wasn't really into the interview, so maybe he wasn't the best candidate.
Okay. Let me go ahead and call HR real quick. See if they have those scoring reports. Okay, guys. So HR was able to give us our rubrics back.
Yes.
Okay. Our highest scoring candidate with 17 points was Ms. Ruick. And believe it or not, Mr. Johnson was not too far off. He was at 13 points. So definitely our highest scoring candidate today was Ms. Ruick. Does the panel or the committee agree to recommend Ms. Ruick as our candidate for the Ruick? Luick? Oh, Luick. I'm sorry. So does the committee agree to recommend Ms. Luick for our position for special ed?
Definitely, yes.
Yes. Ms. Moreno?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Roque?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and do the recommendation for Ms. Luick to get hired to fill our position. Again, thank you all for being here, for coming, and for taking the time